what I've come to realize and accept is that events like 2020 are a catalyst for people like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Because without 2020, would we be doing what we are doing now? Probably not. We think they used hieroglyphics rather than language like us. And we are recording. I've got my first guest on since I started renamed my channel, Cosmic Enigma. And me and Ant have known each other for the last few years. Ant was one of those people that resisted the tyranny back in 2020 and was brave enough to keep his pub open. And that's where I met him, because I went for a night in his pub. And we've been chatting ever since, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
And we have some cracking conversations off on the phone. And we were like, as per usual, these cracking conversations happen and we need to get them on camera. So here we are tonight, having them on camera. Today's topic, I actually want to talk about, I'm in the process of dating.
Oh, you're on the dating game.
I'm on the dating game, yeah. I'm actually thinking about giving up already. I've been on it about a month, and I'm thinking of giving up. Because pre-2020 was hard. Now it seems like it's impossible. Because even if you meet someone, right, so before 2020, you had you've got to find someone you're attracted to. You've got to find someone that you've got chemistry with, right? Mm-hmm. That makes a needle in a haystack scenario. Now you've got, what the fuck have we got in common, right? Have we got the same principles? Yeah. And to add to that, with the journey that I'm on, obviously with the occult and the left-hand path, that's narrowed it down to absolutely nothing. Because I got chatting to a couple of people who were on the same page, knew what 2020 was about. As soon as I told them I was into the occult and the left-hand path, God, I couldn't see them go fast enough. So I guess what I want to talk about with Ant tonight, because you still, I completely backed away from talking about current affairs, shall we say, because pre-2020, I never watched the news. I didn't have a clue what was going on. Of course, 2020 hit and I wanted to know what was going on because I knew something was going on. So I went down all the rabbit holes. And now I'm back to where I was pre-2020. I don't have a clue what's going on in the world. I gave it my energy. It started to, as it has with everybody, we've all been affected hugely since 2020. It's been traumatizing. Add to that, I lost my mum in 2020 as well. Just as it was announced and how she was treated in hospice. You've lost people. So I've had people that have been injured. So it's been very traumatizing. So now I've gone on a real deep dive into self-development and the spiritual side of things, where I know you have, but you're still keeping in touch with current affairs, and that's what your channel is about, isn't it? So by all means, plug your channel. What does it, you've told me before, but tell me what Stellify represents. Well,
it's basically we are stars at the end of the day, and we're all going back to that as well. It's where we come from, it's where we're going back. And yes, I've got certain people on my channel initially, but the way I'm going to set my channel up is, my plan, if it works that way, is to create a 3D sense of awakening initially with the guests that I have before I deep dive into more of the esoteric. So I'm trying to gradually build the kind of, oh my God, this world is insane, to, oh my God, there's more to this, and then, oh my God, where am I going now? You know, and I want to try and be the bridge to take people to maybe to dark matters, if that makes sense.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's where I've gone wrong, because like you, Ant, we have both kind of like snowballed, and we have graduated so quickly. Like I still speak to some awake people, and they are literally just, they're awake as far as they know the corruption and the simplistic things about this realm, and they haven't gone into the occult, the esoteric. And just by my very nature, I kind of blurt things out. So I've gone from, so if you look at the process of my channel, I mean, I never really discussed 2020 on my channel. It just wasn't something that I wanted. I didn't go there. But so my channel has gone from, I think I started on simulation theory. That's where I
straight to it.
Yeah, straight to it. No holds barred. Woo! And then it kind of went to the natural law, and then it went to the Gnosticism stuff. And now, of course, I've changed my name to Cosmic Enigma, and it's going to like the journey that I'm on now. So I know that a lot of people that originally followed me, maybe, I mean, like I can tell by the amount of views that I get. I've kind of, you know I've lost people along the way, because I used to get comments like, you put stuff out there really simplistic, easy to understand. And now I'm like talking about the occult demonology, the fucking left-hand path. It's like, poof, people. And this is kind of like what triggered and why I wanted this conversation, because I was chatting to a guy that I'd met on one of the dating apps.
Okay.
And I was trying to explain to him about etymology and how words have been weaponized against us. So I went into the straw man, and of course, he didn't have a clue what I was talking about.
No.
And he's like, I don't fucking know what you're talking about. And as I tried to explain myself, it just got worse and worse and worse. And the more I tried to be understood, the less he understood. You know what I mean? Because when you've got all this knowledge inside of your head, you want to blurt it out. And I've never been very good at, I'm probably a better writer than I am a verbalist, if that's a word. So I know I confuse people. But this is when I messaged you after that had happened, because it made me realise the disconnect between people and the separation, and how that separation has grown. And so, I just want a conversation around that, really, and how, and it's not even, at first when I contacted you, I said it was like a generational thing, because you've got the woke generation. Now, the woke generation they're almost like altruistic, the Black Lives Matter and the climate change. And yes, those things do matter. But when you've been on the journey that we've been on, we know there's a deep and nefarious tale behind it. Of course.
Yeah. They do like to spin a yarn.
Absolutely. So they've got all these people in boxes, and as these people become deeper in their box and the programming becomes deeper and deeper, the likes of you and I mean, you're really lucky because you've got a partner who gets it. Right?
I'm lucky.
My ex-boyfriend gets it. Right. So of course, me and Chris, we still have a very good friendship because he gets it. But there are so few people that get it. So I guess I just wanted to have a chat around that.
Yeah, and the divide is massive. It's a chasm. I mean, I as you know, I had to get a day job, and it's so recognizable because I'm meeting people all the time. And it's very hard not to red pill people when you, like you say, you're excited sometimes, and you got to bite your tongue because it just gets you into trouble, really.
It absolutely.
I'm lucky that I've met a couple of people along the way these past few weeks. One of which I kind of opened up to Operation Paperclip the other day, and I watched her as she Googled it in front of me, and her face, she just went white in front of me. It was like, what was this? What?
Well, that is the difference, isn't it? And you've got the people that will point blank, they don't want their universe, their reality shattered. And then you've got the people like I was, like when Chris introduced me to 9/11, I was like, Kermit the Frog. Do you know what I mean? Straight on the internet, I spent months researching that. Then he introduced me, then he told me about the straw man. Again, I went down. But some people, point blank, do not want to look any further than what their reality.
Sure, because it's frightening. At the end of the day, the programming that you're under is a comfort. It's a comfort. If you start breaking that program and you start seeing the world differently, your life's going to change drastically.
Yeah, I was had.
Yeah, and there's you don't go back. Once your eyes open, you can't do what the guy did in the Matrix and decide to, sell his soul and then eat the steak and drink the wine and go back into the Matrix. You can't go back. Your eyes are open, and if you like us, like you and I, we just want to learn more and more and more. So it's like we get to a level, but then we're constantly, like curiosity killed the cat almost. We are constantly on this journey to try and find out where it's going to lead, because what we've realized in the past few years, 9/11, great, big awakening for a lot of people. But what, are you going to leave it there? COVID was a massive awakening for people, but are you going to leave it there? Politics we know is an illusion, but again, are you going to leave it there? Because it's so deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. And I think, whatever people think of David Icke, he wrote some of the most amazing books over the past 20, 30 years that were too far ahead for people. That's why he gets called all sorts regarding the reptilians and things like that. They slag him off for it. But when you start actually deep diving these topics, it ain't as far-fetched as you think.
It's interesting you say that, because this left-hand path guy, this universal mastery guy who's studied the tree of life and the tree of death. Now I'm looking at the tree of death at the moment. It's called the Clip-Off. And it's about working with demons and going through the spheres. And it's deep shadow work. Now, I'm not at the moment. I did a tarot reading today, and it kind of like led me to, that's where I'm going. Yeah, this is the path I'm on. Yeah. And the number 666 has followed me around, which is Lucifer. I've got his sigil there, and it's resonating with me. And I know people again, it's one of those misunderstood areas, the left-hand path and things like it's one of those misunderstood areas. But the guy from this universal mastery, he talks about the reptilians, and they are actually an alien race. They are a being, shall we say, so, but again, I think that's why David Icke has been allowed to have free reign like he's had up until obviously 2020, because people would just right,
of course they could. Yeah, that's it. It was easily sent down and ridiculed, and but the thing is, he's been so right in so many aspects over the past 30 years. You can't avoid that now, because the receipts are there, because there's loads of videos of him talking about injections and financial systems, and and it's not because he's a prophet, it's because he researched. He was awake. He is awake, isn't he? So he researched and he was writing about it. All his books, they're all referenced. He's just a massive researcher. That's it. He's not this spiritual guru guy that's just talking about reptilians and Babylonian overlords. He's actually researched it and put them out there. ancient text and that. So it's fascinating stuff, and we enjoy that, because we want to see where it goes. A lot of people don't want to know. It's like, what's the point? People just want to do the 9 to 5, go home, sleep, get to a pension age, and but I don't want to do that, and I know you don't want to do that. This is a journey for me. I'm not here to bore myself to death. I want to know where it's gonna take me.
Absolutely, and that's where the different souls are. That's something that not everybody. I mean, I think me and Michael Feely, we discussed this. Not everybody is ready, because each soul is at a different level.
Yes.
But also, what I've come to realize and accept is that events like 2020 are a catalyst for people like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Because without 2020, would we be doing what we are doing now? Probably not. So that is part of the soul evolution. Now, like you, I've looked at the trap versus the school. I've come to the conclusion. I came to the conclusion. I did a video a while back on the soul trap, and I believe it's both a school and a trap. And I think it might have been Plato. I can't remember who it was that wrote it. We come here to learn, and the body, the vessel, is the trap. So until we've learned, we can't escape that. So until we've learned everything we need to learn in this realm, we keep being reincarnated. So this is why
it makes sense. It does make sense. I mean, obviously, I can't prove anything, and we've got to just go with our feelings on things, and our opinions change. I know, I think that we're in a very beautiful realm in a lot of aspects, and obviously a very dark realm in a lot of aspects as well. So. Well, yeah, and then when you go down, because you've done a lot more research on Gnosticism than I have, when you start looking at the Sophia myth, the myth of where if Sophia is this realm, if she turned into this realm, then is it a simulation in that respect? There's more to it than that. You've got something beautiful and organic, and if we're in her dream. As such, we're part of her dream, and she's awakening again, maybe, and maybe there's a process going on there. I'm still deep diving all this stuff, and I've no conclusion by any stretch.
I don't think any of us have, because it is all theory when all's said and done. Because I mean, I've got a book, and it goes right back to like Plato, even before Plato, and I've not read a lot of it. Because I'm one of these, I buy books, I start a book, and then I buy another book, and I'll start that book. I've never quite. But even like Plato and who was it, Aristotle, even they disagreed about what this realm was. And do you know what I mean? So nobody truly knows. But that's the great thing about philosophy. It's having these discussions. That is why it's great. It's about exercising the mind.
And philosophy also is Sophia as well, isn't it? It's the love Sophia. So
I didn't know that. Actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So talking about word magic.
Yeah.
And it's about wisdom. It's about wisdom, the love of wisdom.
Yeah.
So Sophia is wisdom.
She also did create the demiurge as well, if we're to believe the demiurge.
Well, that's right. So, but apparently, again, it was an accident. From what I've been looking into, so
well, again, there's two different
hijacking of.
Yeah, I've looked at it being an accident, and I've looked at it being purposeful. But whatever it is, it's part of what needs to be. Because like I'm reading about the clip off at the moment, and it's talking about God creating. Well, God created, if we're to believe like Satan, and God created Satan and. Sorry, good and evil.
Yeah.
The tree of life actually has Satan.
Yeah.
In one of the spheres. So, but yeah, we didn't come on here to deep dive.
No, we didn't. But you can't help it, can you? When you start talking.
Exactly.
We'll go back to the division of people. So it is very, very clear. I mean, obviously, like for example, I can't talk to my family about what's happened in the past few years. They don't, because our differences are huge. I can talk to my family about things that's going on, say with my daughter, or with football if it's me talking to my stepdad. But I don't bring up the past few years because there's too much of a difference there. They're never going to get on board with that.
That's the thing. I mean, it's one thing, like, when I've been single for a number of years now, and I kind of like feel ready to embrace somebody in my life. But when you think about what 2020 did, it broke families up. So how can two people who have got completely different views? I mean, pre-2020, it was fine to have different views, but 2020 was a big emotional. I mean, it was a vast point of view difference. It wasn't just what example can I use? Oh, you like United and you like City. It was very emotive. Because it was traumatizing. That's why it was so emotive.
Well, it's extreme, isn't it? And people were dying, not of what they were telling us.
Yeah.
But people were dying, so the emotion was hugely charged, and fingers were pointed. Hence, obviously, the pub being a difficult period. It was a great period, but it was a difficult period because I was pinpointed as a super spreader. So you're almost you kind of like I'm a murderer or something, which is quite outrageous. But that's what they did, and they created that chasm, and we were getting people, pension age coming in that no longer could speak to the husband after, of 50 years. So they were coming to my pub because they needed somewhere to go and they needed someone to talk to, but that's what that period of time did. It polarized people massively. But in a spiritual sense, was it meant to be that way? I would say probably it was in terms of soul, and a test. It was a soul test as well to see where you're going to go with this. Not to say that I'm the big I am either, by the way. I just had a very intrinsic knowing, because I've been following this silly nonsense since 2012, since a bit of a spiritual awakening. So I had a very intrinsic feeling that this was, I just knew it was nonsense really, but I was just trying to protect people.
I was working in a pub at the time, and when it all kicked off, I was like, "There's something big going on. There's agenda behind me." But I was still going to the bathroom singing "Happy Birthday to you." I know when you're washing your hands, I was still doing that because none of us knew what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
But of course, I was coming out going, "There's an agenda going on," and I was the only one. And there was a couple of customers that came in. That was it. There was one lad in particular who worked for the NHS, and he went, "There's something going on." He went, "Because the hospitals are empty." And I went, "I know," I said, "because my mum's in and out of the hospital at the moment, and I've been, and they're empty."
Yeah.
So he knew there was something going on, but I got banned from speaking about it to the customers. So I said, what now?
You should have told me. I would have given you a job.
Well, I didn't know it at the time, did I? Didn't know it at the time, but so that pissed me off because being the strong character I am, I was like, "What? So now you're telling me what I can and can't say? You're policing my conversations with people." Yeah. So I was ostracized. I was ostracized at the stables because again, I went to stables. There's something big going on, blah blah blah. And there was a woman there. She was quite a large lady, and we were talking about mask wearing, and she said, "Well, are you not worried about dying, Joanne?" I said, "Well, you're clearly not." I said, "You're wearing a mask to protect yourself from a virus, but you're clearly not worried about having a heart attack." And I know that sounds harsh to say that, but I was trying to throw some logic into the situation. Look at it logically. You're overweight. You're eating whatever you want to eat. Unhealthy foods, yet you're wearing a mask because you're being programmed to fear something that's on the TV. If you were being programmed to fear food that was unhealthy for you, you wouldn't be eating that food. All logic has kind of like just left the building.
Totally. And like you say, you hit the nail on the head. It was about programming of fear. People under fear will do. They'll look outside. It's about this is the journey, the spiritual journey. Everyone looks outside for that savior. So you're looking outside for the doctor, for a physician, for the scientist, for a politician. I mean, seriously, who looks outside for a politician for advice? I mean, it's just outrageous. This is the thing. It's about within. The whole journey is about looking within, and forgetting we are the only savior that's you've got. Forget looking outside for a savior. It's not happening. You're the savior for yourself.
There's still people drugging on about Q and Trump.
Yeah. I know it's still very heavy on some of the things I look at, and I never went down that path. And I do want to speak to people. I do want to speak to people about it. Because I'd love to someone to convince me if they could. But I've just not been convinced by it. Now, I've always said because we had a lot of people come into the pub, as you know, who were very big into Q, and I just respect the wishes, whatever. But I just said, I hope you're right. I don't believe it, but I hope you're right. And I'm not seeing anything yet, but I might be wrong. You know what? I was married for 10 years. I was wrong every day. So I'm all right. I'm all right with being wrong.
Yeah. Another thing I want to touch on, Ant, as well is the music, because you and I are into music, and like you've interviewed Mark Devlin. I've read a couple of his books. Got his third one. I started reading it, but then I stopped because it was just about COVID and been there, done that. But again, that was another part of this journey. That was, I mean, I knew about the satanic elements of the music industry, because after I got off 9/11, I went into that realm, and it sent me into a very dark place. So I stopped looking at it. Of course, when 2020 hit and you start going down all the rabbit holes, you've got the Pizzagate and all that. And it's really interesting, actually, because I'm not going to touch on it too much in this video, but the clip-off is something that the dark occult are using to control the masses. Yeah. So again, that's another inversion, is what I'm learning, like black magic, the clip-off, that kind of thing. It from the Kabbalistic point of view, it is about self-development and spirituality. So you've got the left-hand path, the right-hand path, as you know. But as with everything, it's being used against us. Yeah. Right. So the dark magic that I am looking at is being used. It's been inverted and being used against us, and they use the entertainment industry for that purpose. Now, both you and I were heavily into music, like the Doors, Led Zeppelin, that kind of thing. That's another part of your reality that gets absolutely destroyed when you learn that the handsome Jim Morrison, who you aspired to and who you wanted to be like, was nothing more than an actor and working for.
I know, the bastard.
To socially engineer us. But equally, they are victims.
Oh, of course they are. Of course they are. But it's one of them, innit? Like when you have a love and a passion for something, and you spend your entire life with that love and passion, and then it's kind of like, I said this to Mark. So I had Mark Devlin at the festival last year, and he did, and I introduced him before, and then I said, here's a man I admire massively. His books are incredible. You've got to read them, and he's literally ruined my fucking life. And he said, well, somebody's got to do it, haven't they? But the thing is, his research is very important. It's very important. Now, I had this conversation because he did a talk at the pub as well. But the last weekend we ever had open before we closed, we had the Shine event on, and Mark was there, and I had a chat with him then as well. And I said, look, regarding Pink Floyd, I'm such a big fan of Pink Floyd's music. And then I listened to the podcast he did. I can't remember who he was talking to, and it just tore apart the whole charade of it all. And I said, well, I've got to enjoy the craft, and I can't stop not loving the craft of it. So I've I've distanced myself from what you would perceive as these great characters that write music and have this act that they are, like say Rage Against the Machine, for example. They're a big one for me in comparison to, because I love their music. The lyrics meant an awful lot to me as someone who is very passionate for freedom, and for, people having the that's what I was, those values, they stuck with me. And then they did the big festival during 2020, 21, and people had to have the injection to go to the festival. And it's like, really? Rage Against the Machine? Rage with the machine, more like, So it destroyed a lot of aspects of that.
Absolutely. And this is what Mark Devlin was trying to write home. Where are all these anti-establishment bands? Where are they? Like, I think we had, obviously, Ian Brown stand up.
Well, Stellify is from one of Ian Brown's songs. So
really?
Yeah, so Ian Brown is one of the only ones that I can hold in, and thank goodness that Ian Brown stood up the way he did throughout that. As a big Stone Roses fan, I was delighted. At least I've got someone that I can still relate to in that respect. Well, you know what? I through that period of time, I got chatting a lot to Richard Fairbrass, because he stood up an awful lot, and a good sound guy is as well. So there's a few. Van Morrison was another one. He weren't having any of it. So there was a few, but anti-establishment. Well, they just are establishment. That's the fact.
Well, that's the fact, and it's also about social engineering. It's like the Beatles. They would start free love movement, which was promiscuity. Is that how you pronounce it? Promiscuity.
Yeah. And then Woodstock and all that as well. Yeah.
And it comes back to that. We will have everybody in a box. So when you listening to the Doors and Led Zeppelin and those kinds of bands, and you're not following the mainstream, you're thinking, I'm a little bit different, I'm anti-establishment. Actually, you're just in another box that they've placed you in. And I think where I'm at the moment, I'm trying to move out of any box. I want to leave this realm with no bias.
I think that's wise. I personally think that's wise. So even being in the truth of movement, if you like, you end up a little bit paranoid by going down certain paths that you used to enjoy. So I took the kids to watch Kiss last year. Now, Kiss is the devil in the truth of movement. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were horrendous throughout the whole period. There's no doubt about it. I've got no time for them as individuals. I think they're absolutely horrendous. But I love the craft. It was an entertainment, as in terms of entertainment, the kids wanted to go and watch them. It was the last time, and then I took my daughter to watch Motley Crue. We know what they're all about. And I'm not being funny, Joe. I was right at the front, right? Motley Crue, right at the front. And it was all about transhumanism.
Oh,
literally. No. They did Girls, 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 and this big, inflatable, robotic female from behind. And then I must admit, I can't say it's true or anything, but I took pictures. I've got a picture of Nikki Sixx and I always get his bloody name wrong, the lead singer. And there's no Adam Apples on either of them. I'm not saying they are or they're not. I'm not saying they are or they're not, because we know there's a lot of that going on where people say, oh, that's a woman or that's a man. There's too much of that going on, but it is a bit strange. It is a bit strange.
On that, I just want to point out, I think it's important to still enjoy certain aspects of, like, I've started listening to music again because I stopped listening to music, right? And I've started listening to music because I enjoy listening to music.
Yeah, I love music.
It lifts me, absolutely. And I actually watched a film last night called An Evening with the Devil, or A Night with the Devil. I must admit, it freaked me out. I'm like, right, that's it. I'm getting rid of the tarot cards. That's it. There's all going. But no, I know that, again, it's, it's that perception. They want us to fear these things. And that's one of the things that I'm understanding about Satan. They want us to fear it because Satan is your shadow self. And they don't want people looking at the shadow self because then they're going to heal.
Satan just means adversary, doesn't it? That's
exactly
all it is. Yeah.
But the whole, male, female, are they, aren't they? It's not something that I've obsessed over, I've not. Because I believe with that, I believe there's an element of alien control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the Nordic aliens, they're very androgynous.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
And I think that is now. I actually find androgyny attractive. I always have, even before I knew what was going on. I just always have. And if we're to believe in cloning, they are creating androgynous. And I had a reading with Logan, from Decode Reality.
Yeah.
And he did a tarot, so it's astrology, tarot, numerology. And at a certain part of my reading, I got, I think, the Emperor and then the Priestess. I think those are the two cards that I got. And the Emperor was about the patriarchy and how we are transitioning from the patriarchy to the matriarchy. And the transhumanism is that transition. Because we have to have the destruction for the rebirth.
Yeah,
so everything is for a reason. So these movements that we are, and I truly believe that all these rabbit holes and all these things that they've got us up in arms about, like the transgender, like the transhumanism, like all this thing, is to distract from the real reasons, the destruction and then the rebirth.
You can't not have a rebirth without that collapse. The collapse, unfortunately, will have to happen. There will have to be pain, birthing pains, and all that will come.
I'm losing you
from the changes that are happening now. They obviously want a certain. You're losing me. Am I back?
I've got you back now. Yeah, your picture's gone a little bit. But yeah, the sound's back. Can you hear me?
With the internet. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah. So they want a certain reset, don't they? Out of this rebirth. They've been talking about this great reset. I don't believe they're going to get it, though. I don't believe they're going to get it. I think they're going to get a completely different reset. That's my feeling.
Well, the reset could be interpreted in all kinds of manner. I mean, the reset of the planet. If we are like, okay, so there's all kinds of, there is again the astrological. I mean, we've gone really deep as per usual yet again. I mean, how does that even happen, right?
I know.
But if
I'm not talking about people yet.
If you look at like the astrology, we've gone into a new age, and I think I wrote an article on it not long back. We've gone into a new age, and that's what all this destructive energy is. And I'm understanding astrology more and more because, of course, I'm having to with the reading the tarot. I'm having to learn it, because it's part of occult knowledge.
Yeah.
So I'm understanding it more now on an energetic level. Like the tree of life is the energetic influences of the planets.
Yeah.
And the Gnostics talked about it. So the Gnostics talked about the planets being the archons.
The archons,
Yeah. And again, I theorize that, well, I come up with my own theories, but I've got the information from reading about the Gnosticism. We come through the planets, and that's what gives us our ego. And then when we die, we go to the moon, go to the light, and that's where souls are harbored to be assessed, whether or not we come back here or we move on. And that moving on doesn't necessarily mean that we go Jacob's ladder, because Jacob's ladder I understand to be going up through the planets. We may go to another realm, and that realm could be so we've got Dante's Inferno, which is, I think, 7 realms of hell. Those 7 realms of hell might not be the 7 realms of hell in this realm. There might be other realms. So if you've not served well in this realm, this actually might be a really fucking good realm. Do you know what I mean? There might be even darker realms outside of this. And this is where it starts to get massive.
Oh,
mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
Absolutely. And this is why I think Michael Feely mentioned it, and I've got that book there, Alchemy and Mysticism. The clues are in the pictures. And I did a video on it, how, and I don't understand, like Callie as an example, she's gone real deep with the etymology, and I would like to get her on the channel. But like, I believe that they've brought language in to weaponize against us, so it makes us completely logical, and we've lost that creative element of our brain. and we can't decode messages in images, which is what the alchemists, their paintings, is all about.
Very interesting that.
The painting, yeah.
And it's interesting the fact that the transhumanism agenda is removing even more creativity and removing you even further from source. So you are coming, you're being more reliant again on, well, you're being actually told how to live, aren't you? You're not even using a logical brain. You're using no brain at all, really, because you can just get AI to do it for you. But
absolutely,
it's taking you away from nature, Sophia, if you want.
Yeah.
Taking you away from the source. It's taking you away from yourself.
But again, that is part. So I came across a demon called Ahriman when I was researching Gnosticism, and I got into Rudolf Steiner.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about Ahriman. So you've got Lucifer, you've got Christ, Lucifer, and Ahrimanic consciousnesses, right? And Ahriman is right down here, and he's the real adversary. He's all about matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I think Satan and Ahriman are different entities. I think. Ahriman is like the one that's taken us further and further into matter. Now, since I've been looking at demonology, Ahriman has actually been coming up in my research. So I asked the question, and I can't remember the answer. Yes, I do remember the answer. I asked about Ahriman and his role in the energies that are playing out now and going further and further into matter. And the reply was, we need the catalyst in order to grow.
Yeah, okay.
And that is everything that I'm learning about the left-hand path. It's all about the catalysts and the shadow work. And in order for soul development, that has to happen. And I go to the New Age movement. That's why the New Age movement wants everybody in the right brain, the right-hand path. And I'm not saying the right-hand path is wrong.
No.
As we know, the right-hand path has been so pushed towards free love, spirituality, nothing matters. We are literally just souls, and this realm doesn't matter. Well, actually, it does matter, because if we are so in our spiritual and matter doesn't matter, then we don't do anything. We just sit on our asses and sit back and go, hey, actually, it doesn't matter.
But they're psyops.
Absolutely.
And they're just cop-outs, aren't they? So you don't do any work.
Exactly. Whereas the free love movement and the New Age movement, they think that they don't need to do the work because they're so in touch with their spirituality. And again, the word spirituality is so loosely.
It is. It's an interesting one. I find it really, because I've gone not deep down into the New Age thing, but I've looked at it and felt I've almost spoke to a few people that are well into it and felt that they just almost can just wish their life to magicdom. And I don't think we can do that in this realm. I think in terms of manifestation alone, I know manifestation works because I know I can manifest because I've done it, and I manifest good and bad things in my life constantly.
Me too.
So I know it works, but I don't think it's a case of we'll all just think happy thoughts and the Great Reset's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be that way. I think we actually have to do something as well.
Absolutely, because if we didn't have the adversary or the catalyst, our souls would just stagnate. And I bring that back to the tree of life. That's why you've got the left and the right of the tree of life. And then you've got the middle path, which is called the royal path, which is the hardest path, which is walking the middle path. Well, we know that is, especially in this realm, that's pretty difficult because we are being ping-ponged all the time. So to remain in complete balance. Now, I actually go back to Buddha. Now, one could say that Buddha was walking the middle path and in complete balance. But if we are to believe that Buddha sat under a tree for 40 years, that's hell. That's a great hell.
Yeah. That's a challenge and a half, isn't it? It's a real challenge.
And we know that. And there was actually a guy that I follow, and I asked him a question about the left and the right hand path, and he went, well, actually, we walk the path of the serpent. We go from.
Yeah. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and it's like a bowling alley, And in the bowling alley as a child, you would have the rails up and the ball would hit side to side as you're trying to get on that middle path. But, when you're just left alone to it, that ball rears off, so it is a challenge. And I must admit, I am trying my hardest to do the middle path way. I like to look at it all if I can. And I just try and do the best for everybody.
Yeah.
And I kind of spend most of my time now going off my intuition rather than thinking too much about it. My brain is my own worst enemy, as it is for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And that's where my anxiety comes in, when I start thinking too much anyway. So, we're tormented and tortured by that.
Absolutely. I mean, I must admit, I've not been feeling very anxious. I'm kind of just in a state of flow. I'm just like...
That's wonderful. That's the best place to be.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it'll stay like that, Anne, but go on.
Yeah, the only time I get anxiety, Joe, is literally making sure that I've got enough money coming in to keep my family afloat. It's the only time I get anxiety, bills and things like that. Apart from that, I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I kind of just know, and I trust my journey. I do. It's like, I believe, from my understanding now, and I might be completely wrong, but I feel in terms of my higher self or my soul or whatever, that's in charge, not the Ant Critchley, the personality that's been programmed and created during the past 49 years. My soul's in charge. It's just sometimes Anthony Critchley doesn't listen, and therefore it takes longer to get there.
Yeah.
And you hit a lot of obstacles on the way. But actually, my soul knows exactly what needs to be done and how to do that and how to get to A to B quicker. It's just listening, though, and trusting it. That's the hardest bit.
That's the hardest thing, is trusting it. And because we want to feel like we're in control.
Exactly.
We're actually not.
No, we're not.
We've got a certain element of control, absolutely. But I mean, absolutely, when I say I don't suffer with anxiety, sometimes I get pangs of anxiety like you around money. I think that's just, I think
it's part of the game.
Part of the game, exactly. And even if you've got loads of money, you want to hold on to that money. So then that creates an anxiety, but just going back to what you were saying about listening to your soul, I've bought some tarot cards and I'm learning tarot, and I'm actually picking I did a tarot for my friend Joe, and it was pretty spot on. So I'm like, yeah, I'm actually all right at this.
There you go. Good for you. Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand it for myself as well. Like, I've done a couple of tarot readings for myself on, what my future holds and things like that. And it is about, and I got a couple of not very good cards today. One was the Tower, and the other one was the Devil. And it's like, the Tower's like a destruction card. But that's me trying to follow my soul's path more. And again, I go back to the journey that I'm on now. I truly believe that everything, if you watch my video on the spiders and the tunnels of Set, I truly believe that I have been actually led.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. And there'll be an absolute reason why you and I have crossed paths when we did. The time. Everything's divine. I believe everything is divinely perfect. It might not feel it at the time for us as individuals, growing pains and going through it all, but it will be for a reason. For everything, a reason.
Absolutely. And it's about not fighting. Like, with me being dating at the moment, or trying to.
Yeah. But there'll be a reason for that as well, though. There'll be a reason for why you feel now ready for it. There'll be a reason why you are going down the route, and you'll be meeting individuals right now that'll be going and testing Joe. Yeah. For some reason, you're going to be tested on this path because you're setting yourself on. Now, you've already met someone, and it's created a bit of whatever's happened there, it's obviously not right.
Yeah.
And that chasm is there, the division is there because of the past few years, you know.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing.
No, and I think that's something that I need to, because I really fancied this guy, like on a physical level.
You're in your lower mind now, Joe. You're in your lower mind.
What's interesting, that's actually part of the devil card.
Okay.
Like the subconscious, like the material, blah blah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting, and that.
But as human beings, Joe, we are sexual beings, so we have our biological aspects to us that are very controlling. They're very controlling, very powerful. And one of the things that we, as spiritual beings, need to do is try and transcend that urge. And it's part of the 7 deadly sins, isn't it? Lust is one of them. And that's why they laid out those 7 deadly sins in how we transmute that and move forward as spiritual beings to become an ascension of a higher being in itself and come into the higher mind, which is tough. It's a challenge, but it wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
But here's a question for you. So obviously there's a lot of talk around the masculine and the feminine, right? So I know that for the past few years, especially, I've been standing a lot in my masculine because I've had to defend, not defend myself.
Yeah, a lot of women have.
Exactly. And a lot of men are more in their feminine, as we know. So if this soul's journey is a solo journey.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I had my mushroom ceremony, I realized that our journey is. So I'd spoken to a few people about their mushroom ceremonies, and each and every person has a different experience. So even though they might go into the astral realm, it's a completely different experience to what I had. And that made me realize that the soul journey is an individual journey. Even though like the likes you and I might be on similar journeys, we're still on our own soul journey. So if we are, and it gets me thinking about soulmates and twin flames, if they are indeed psyops. So on that, where is the masculine and the feminine? Are we supposed to, so if we are so our soul being is both. Right. So we're all out looking for, like, now I'm looking for my masculine to complement my feminine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But as a spirit being, I'm both.
Yeah. That's right. I would say you are. And yeah, but it's the human, isn't it? But there's also there's also very deep programming in that you need that balance, and someone's going to bring that balance to you in this journey. It's not necessarily true, though, is it? That's just a story.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with having someone there, is there, that's special to you? There's nothing more, it's a wonderful thing to have,
Yeah.
Me and Lou, we're lucky, we bounce off each other all the time. I'm not the most masculine guy because I'm quite in touch with my feminine.
Yeah.
And
that's a lovely thing.
Well, I think so, but I'm not. But I had to stand up. I had to come out my shell on the past few years, because we were under attack. So I had to dig deep and bring that masculine out. I'm not very good at confrontation, and I had to do it. So that was part of my journey. That was part of my soul journey. That to stand more into my masculine and my power, if you like.
Yeah.
But we complement each other, so we're lucky. We just bounce off each other and we balance each other out. And are we soulmates? Well, I would say we are, but I would say there's soulmates everywhere. That could be a friendship. That could be, my daughter could be my soulmate. There's so many aspects to that. In terms of this human adventure that we're on, though, is it needed? Probably not, because it's a story. Do you want it? Yeah. Should you have it if you want it? Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? You have to have an experience, and you should enjoy it, shouldn't you? That's the thing. We have a lot a lot that distracts us and puts us in fear and upsets us in this experience, why shouldn't you have something to enjoy?
Absolutely. Just finding it now, though, Anne.
Well, and the thing is, it's a weird. I wouldn't ever want to go into the dating game. I must admit, the actual thought of that's quite terrifying. But it's changed so much, hasn't it? So when we were younger, you would probably meet someone in a bar or a club, and then you'd start to get to know them in a way, or you'd meet them at work, or that's how that happened. And now it's an internet situation where you're looking at a photograph, you might see a video, I don't know how it works now, and then you'll mess each other and you'll strike up a conversation, blah, blah, blah. But at least with this situation, you can narrow things down quite considerably before you were actually meet them, I suppose. So to find out that they are into the same kind of things you are, to find out that they're not been injected by some crazy toxin that's been thrown out these past few years might be something that interests individuals. It would if it were me. So it's like that allows you to pinpoint things down a bit. But then when you meet, it's when the energetic side of it is when you meet that individual.
Well, I was just about to touch on that. It's all about that. It's, have you got that chemistry? And you're not going to know that until. So I kind of like thought to myself, could I date someone who had been right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that's another division. My dad, my stepmom, they've both been, and I went to see them. I gave them big hugs. You know what I mean? I'm not going to let that, and thankfully they didn't let the fact that I haven't get in the way of.
We can't. We've got to unite.
Exactly. So I kind of like been thinking, would I not? I'm trying to get rid of that block because I could meet someone who I have the best connection with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's.
There's a. I know, and before you carry on, just so it's in my mind, I know there's a lot of talk about people saying this thing can be passed through intercourse. We don't know that.
Exactly.
We don't know that at all.
And that could be another fear tactic to keep people separated.
Of course it could. We don't know that.
No, absolutely. But I am finding that if I do come across someone who's been, because some people are stating it, I'm going, well, straight away we've got nothing in common because he believes the narrative. So it's not an easy.
But saying that, so they may have believed in the narrative then.
That's what I said. That's what I said to Chris today.
Yeah.
Like, just because someone has this viewpoint now doesn't mean to say that they can't change.
No, look at what's happened in this world. So I interviewed Alex Mitchell on my last interview was Alex Mitchell. So he lost his leg after the injection. Was he awake up to then? No, of course he wasn't. Is he awake now? Absolutely he is, and he sees it as sinister now.
Yeah.
He sees it as sinister as we saw it then. He sees it now. It's part of the journey of this whole. It's not just us as individuals that's going through a soul journey. This planet's having a soul. It's going through its own thing at the moment. It's changing. So these stories, they're all stories. We're just that's all we are. We're just actors. We're just playing our story, but they're important ones as the growth of individual souls and the soul of this planet itself.
Yeah. And just going back to the division, so I had a theory about the transhumanism was to trap souls further into matter.
Yeah.
So if there are certain souls that have been sent here to help other souls take them back home, shall we say, take them back through Jacob's ladder, then they are going to have had to have thrown something really devastating to create a real division, so that doesn't happen, so that people don't come together. That's another potentiality as to why they try so hard to divide people.
Yeah, no, interesting. Yeah,
Is Lou making a smoothie in the background?
Yeah, Lou's got the kettle on.
Like a loud kettle.
Good microphone, this, isn't it?
Did you say?
But yeah, they are going to throw plenty of spanners in the works for the move into transhumanism. They have to, for people to accept it as well. But it's going to divide people up even more. Because can you imagine like the scenario I would have in my head, which is an absolutely awful, fearful one, is my daughter comes, and says, I've had this chip put in, so I don't need my phone anymore. Utterly devastated. So that's going to divide people up even more if that scenario was to happen. I'm not saying it will. It may never come to that. But that's where they want to push things, don't they? They want to get the youngsters. It's always about the children. My kids are not really children anymore. They're much older. But they want to get the children, don't they? So they can educate them to believe in this is the right way. And they will move forward with their transhumanism agenda, as you can have so much better life when when you're top floor living in an apartment block in Scholes in Wigan, when it's you're destitute and you've got chemtrails and there's clouds in the sky and it's miserable weather all the time and everything else, and you just put this headset on and you've got a wonderful world to head into. And that's kind of this bloody pipe dream that they're trying to take people down. But it's us, it's our generation that's the bridge, isn't it? So we're the ones that's going to have fighting battles with the lower generation, the younger generations, to try and keep them into the natural world and back to source, because this is what this is all about. Is to take people away from the truth that they are powerful beings, that they have the spark inside, the God spark. They are, if you like, we're all part of that.
Michael Feely, I asked Michael Feely what his thoughts were, and my eyes are starting to get sore because I haven't got another light on. I asked Michael Feely about what he thought about the transhumanism agenda, and he said something. I think he said something like, "Well, if we as humans are not growing and evolving, the universe will destroy us, basically." He said something along those lines, and again, it resonated with me. That was an amazing interview, so thank you for interviewing me.
He's great.
And again, it's part of this catalyst, and I have a theory, whether it's right or not, I don't know. I'll let you get going in a minute because we're on 1 hour. This will take about 5 hours to load up on my hotspot. But I have a theory that the real great reset is, I've looked into the Phoenix. Now, whether I believe the Phoenix or not, whether I believe anything, I don't know what I believe anymore. But of course,
it's interesting though.
Absolutely. The whole Phoenix, he was arrested, by the way.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I know because he'd done time, hadn't he? He'd done 20 odd years.
Yeah. He was
apparently
recently arrested. Yeah. Well, exactly. Apparently.
It's all stories. Everything's a story.
Exactly. But if the Earth is resetting, I came up with a theory that. So we've got the astrological ages of 26,000 years, and we're in Aquarius now. Aquarius is about freedom and technology. Now, of course, technology can bring freedom, but of course, we know that.
So what hands it's in?
You are?
It's what hands it's in, isn't it? It's a double-edged sword.
Well, exactly. But again, we don't even know that. We assume that they're pushing us down a nefarious path. We don't know that. It might all be smoke and mirrors,
It might be. Again, though, you look within.
Yeah.
I think we can only go off our own personal radar.
Yeah, absolutely. But the age of Aquarius, I believe that when we get to the age of Aquarius, now if you think about like the Egyptians and other ancient civilizations, we think they used hieroglyphics rather than language like us. They used drawings. Well, what do we use to communicate now? As well, we use emojis. We're using images to communicate. So I'm wondering if the transhuman agenda is the catalyst to flip and take us back to the beginning.
Interesting. Could be. I mean, it's a good theory. It could be, and I've looked at these sort of only little bits of what potential resets we've had in the past, and do we do that in that respect? Then do we just go back to the beginning? It's interesting. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think we do, and I again, this is just my theory. I think the likes of you and I, and maybe we're not even far enough down the soul evolution, and maybe we will get flipped back in. But there's a reason why there are people like us that are a little bit further on. Have we lived? Like when I had my mushroom ceremony, as an example, I went back home, and that back home had crystals. Now Rudolf Steiner refers to a place that had crystals, which was called Lemuria, which was before Atlantis.
Yeah.
So Dan, who did my ceremony, he said it's quite possible you are from Lemuria. So have I done my time and I'm ready to go up Jacob's ladder?
Possible.
And that's why I'm on this path that I'm on now, and I'm starting to delve into like the shadow side, and again, it's just a theory, but
it's all fascinating stuff, and I love it. I that's the thing, and it's the only reason I do it is because well, there's something that tells me I should be doing it, and that's why I'm doing it. I love it, but I do feel I trust the fact that I'm on this path, and that's why I'm researching these topics and I have these conversations, and I'm not just doing my 9 to 5 and coming home and whatever. But again, we don't know nothing.
We don't.
Even with all this interest and this fascination and this love for it, ultimately we don't know anything. We just got to go with it. We've got to go with the feeling that we're doing the right thing. Were you from Lemuria? You could well have been. Did Lemuria exist? Who knows? Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But it's like Atlantis itself. We hear loads of stories of Atlantis, then I hear something that Atlantis is actually the brain, because there's 3 islands or something and surrounded by water. Who knows? Who knows?
Well, here's the thing, and also if we're thinking about this being a simulation, and if there's actually a quantum realm, it's malleable. And look, we know from the Mandela effect, and I've had my own personal experiences of things coming into my timeline. I'll give you an example. Recently, just the other day, I went over to one of my lodges to change the bedding because I had guests come in. I know for a fact I took 2 yellow pillowcases which matched the yellow duvet. I got there was 1 fucking yellow pillowcase. Just gone. I had to message the guests and say, I'm really sorry, I lost a pillowcase on the way over, so you got different pillowcases to the duvet. Just disappeared. I've had a tennis ball disappear in front of me. So we know that this universe, well, from my own experience, I believe that this universe is malleable. I believe that portals open and things can be placed. Well, look at the monoliths. Was it 2021? When all those monoliths were just placed, just appeared out of nowhere.
And they appeared again this year, didn't they? Somewhere else.
Did they?
Yeah, it happened again this year.
Now, that's really interesting. So if we think about that things can be placed here, how do we know our history actually even happened?
Well, I've got a story for you. So when now I think, see, when I first started on my spiritual journey, it was, I think I told you the story where it was with Kev. Actually, I'd gone through my divorce, and Kev had told me I need to ask my angels for help. And I was like, you're talking fucking ridiculous. It's the most stupid thing ever. So he said, no, you need to say it out loud and blah, blah, blah. So my daughter was in bed and I said it out loud. I can't remember what I said, but felt like a complete tit and went to bed. Next day, I was driving to mum and dad's. May's in the car, my daughter, and on the dashboard was 11111, and on the center console was 1111. And I was like, something wrong with my car, pulled over, blah, 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 turned it on again, and all these ones are still there. And drove to my mum and dad's, didn't think anything of it, sat down, got on Facebook, and as I was scrolling through, this thing popped up and it says, if you see 111, your angels are listening. So all my hairs stood up, and I started seeing 1111 from there, and it took me down. This is where I started waking up into the way the world works, because I started finding things through researching 1111. I came across Rick Clay that then took me on a path of 9/11 and various other esoteric things. It's like, wow.
Carry on talking. I'm just going to go put the lamp on and carry on
That's
talking.
all right. Anyway, so when I went, when me and Lou got together, we were tested absolutely enormously. Now, me and my daughter... I decided it was just going to be me and my daughter, and we went and got ourselves a little place in Croston. It was just big enough for really me and my daughter. Really, it was only a small place. But then me and Lou met and completely changed the dynamics of my reality at that point. You know, it wasn't expected. Love it, and that was it. Now, before we didn't realise is that Lou's it was actually going to be very poorly soon. So within 6 months, she fell ill. Now, before that happened, when we moved into that house, Lou was there with her son, and me and May were there, and we'd been there probably about 2 weeks. And I was cleaning the kitchen, and I've still got it. I found a piece of paper on the floor, and it was folded up. And I opened it up, and it's like it was like a transfer kind of thing. It's not written; it's like a transfer, it's printed, and it says, Don't forget to breathe. That's the words. Don't forget to breathe. 6 months later, Lou fell very ill. We got the most unbelievable test. You wouldn't believe it. I could write a book on it. The test that we had. Exhausting. Now, I've started doing a course, a magic course I told you about. And the lady that runs the course is saying, you know, pretty much, you know, we are the universe, you know, and we create absolutely everything, quantum mechanics, all this kind of stuff. Now, the way I look at it now is, weren't my angels, at the time, I thought that was my angels telling me that I need to breathe and, you know, to look after myself and whatever. It wasn't my angels. It was me. I left the breadcrumb. It was me that put that there. It's like Interstellar, isn't it?
You know? That's pretty. I can't remember, but I remember thinking it's a pretty good film.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. But that's it. I'm the one putting the breadcrumbs. It's me that's creating those synchronicities and those moments.
But there are, Ant. I mean, this is something that I battled with, right? So the things that have moved in my reality. There's a guy that I know who follows Jung. Is all about Jung psychology, and he will say, as Jung would say, it's coming from me, right? So one could say, okay, then if that's the case, I can perform telekinesis. Yay me, right? But I don't know how to fucking do it. It's like yet. Right. So, but I do also believe that there are external forces.
I do believe that.
So it's not all about our inner. There also are. Which go back to 111. I've been seeing 111 a lot recently.
Yeah, well, it's just went 111 on the recording then. It's 112 now.
Just as I said 111. That's amazing. But as you know, 666 has followed me around. It's in my phone number. I lived off the 8666, and YouTube gave me the lovely number of 666. Now, I believe I have something with Lucifer. And of course, Lucifer is light, and 666 means light. And again, that's another thing that's been completely misunderstood. That was something that I learned from Michael Feely as it happened. 666 actually means, 6 in the tree of life is Sephiroth. It is the sun. It's Sephiroth, the sun. So it's light.
Yeah.
So, and 33 again is another number that I see a lot. So these are all I believe external signs, but also, again, it's the microcosm and the macrocosm. We're all one. Everything's just one. We're all intertwined. So
I know it's like boom, innit? Your head just goes popped on it.
Exactly. So the tennis ball that moved and the air freshener that dropped out of nowhere and all these things that have happened, you start to question, have I been doing that? Like, I'll give you a really good example, right? So a few months ago, I had some shungite on a speaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this speaker was on a shelf, and the end, there was about an inch hanging off the shelf of the speaker, right? So the majority of the speaker was on the shelf, right? So anyway, I had a big piece of square shungite on this speaker, and I'm sat there watching everyone watching, and this shungite fell off. I was like, whoa, whoa. I was like, whoa, rang Joe. You never guess what happened, right? And then the following day, it fell off. Yeah. And I went all excited round to my neighbour. Oh, you never guess what's happened, blah, blah. And he went, are you sure it's not just a vibration? I was like, no, it's not the vibration. So when I came up, the speaker was actually vibrating. So it's quite possible that the shungite fell off with the vibration, right? But I was on the phone to Joe that morning, and I was like, but if it fell off with vibration, why isn't the speaker fallen off? That night, the fucking speaker fell off. You wouldn't know that. I rang and said, oh my God, you never guess what the speaker just fell off. When you're kidding me, I'm having the sweats, I'm on the change, aren't I? So I have these hot flashes every now and then. But logistically, there is no way that speaker could have fallen off because the bulk of the speaker was on the shelf.
Yeah.
And it's been there absolutely months.
Yeah.
So there's no way. So did I create that?
Well, this is the thing, eh?
That's the thing. So,
and universe is you in verse, you in song.
Yes. Yeah. So we're constantly in flow with the universe, and we are constantly
creating.
Giving out.
We're always creating. We never stop creating. Even the problem being is because we're so heavily programmed. It's our subconscious is creating.
Yeah.
95% of our day is run by our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So we are not consciously creating, and then we're under fear when we are conscious.
Yeah.
So we're attacked. So they're full of distractions. If you want to call this a game, it's a very challenging game.
Yeah.
And we are. So you have the entities, like you say. You have archons. You have you can call the politicians archons if you wish. They're just playing that part of the game to distract you from finding who you truly are and reaching your true potential, which is, if it's to leave this realm and to ascend to higher things, I don't know. But ultimately, I reckon this realm in your creation could be the most wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Why can't it be?
And just going back to what you say there, so I'm sure you've heard of Bruce Lipton.
Yeah.
He
I like Bruce Lipton.
But he says we have to how does he phrase it? Something about the having to rewrite the subconscious. Well, that universal mastery said, and I actually resonated with this, we don't need to rewrite it. We completely need to undo it.
Yeah.
And it was like, we do need to undo all the programming that we have been subject, and we know that's not an easy task.
No, not
because
at all,
we're constantly
from birth,
absolutely
from trauma and everything.
I'm so glad I lost my old Facebook, because I've literally got now like 30 friends, and I'm getting rid of some of those. People that you had, and you're like, why have I added these people? It's interesting. I keep getting fellas with long hair, the new age guys. I keep getting those friend suggestions.
There you go. Maybe you're telling yourself something if you're creating that.
Maybe. I nearly put it on my feed the other day, took a screenshot of these are the guys I'm getting friend suggestions. But again, I believe that I lost my Facebook for a reason, because that path of staying in the mainstream or the truth community or whatever is not my path.
Yeah,
I realise that now.
Yeah.
You know,
your path is yours.
Yeah. And look, I know that the path that I'm on is one that a lot of people won't resonate with because they do see it as evil.
But that's just fear, and we're living in an inverted realm because it's a test, isn't it? I mean, religion's full of fear, isn't it? It's packed full of fear.
Well, my God, I had a Christian say to me, if you don't follow Jesus, you're going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, how is that a wholesome thing to say to someone? Mm-hmm. How is that coming from a place of love?
Yeah,
a Luciferian would never say that to anyone. People, they won't say that. And again, it's about the religion keeping people in fear.
It's fear. It's a very fearful, and we know that these are such huge topics and themselves, aren't they? But I think that you only look after the past 4 years itself to see how fear controls people. Religion's been controlling people for thousands of years through fear. So if you don't behave yourself in a certain way, or like you say, you don't accept Jesus into your life, or you don't, whichever, then you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Well, I don't accept that.
Me neither.
I don't accept that.
And I told her about the message that I got from my mum through my phone, and I could see her face, and I went, "You think it was a devil, don't you?" She went, "Yeah." And I said, "How can something that made me feel so elevated and so good be something of such a negative force?"
It's an interesting, it's an interesting one because I hear, in terms of spirituality, let's say mediumship, for example, that potentially they come across a reading or they do a reading and they've been tricked. They're meant to feel great, and the person that they've done a reading for has come away with a great story, uplifting story to help them, but it's been a trickery from a demon. Who's to know?
But I used to listen to Tom Montauk. I think I've put you onto Tom.
He's amazing. Yeah, I really like Tom Montauk. Yeah.
And he said something which again made real sense to me. And it was about demons tricking us. He went, if something makes you feel amazing, that's not a demon's role. They're there to make you feel
like crap.
Obviously, I now have a completely different perception of demons. So this was like a few months ago, completely different perception. But back then, of course, there's good and evil in the spirit world as well as there is in that.
Of course there is.
There is. But it made sense to me. If a demon feeds off negative energy, why would it make you feel good? It doesn't serve that. Yeah, whatever demon is tricking you, it doesn't serve.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense. I mean, that's logical, but again, we're in a strange realm, aren't we? Not everything makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, again, that book that I can't remember the title of. It's quite a long title, but it references the early church and how the early church didn't want people talking about philosophy. Didn't want the Gnostics talking about philosophy, because if you weren't following their faith, then you were on the wrong path. And again, I'm paraphrasing hugely there. I can't remember. But again, the early Christian church has a lot to answer for regards to the manipulation of...
Well, they terrify people. You know, as a child, I was, in fear that my stepdad was going to hell because the church that I was taken to every week was telling me I need to pray for him, because he was an atheist. And if he doesn't believe in Jesus, he's going to hell. So as an 8-year-old, I was terrified, that my stepdad was going to hell. So that fear is outrageous. That's not love. That's not love at all.
Not at all. And it's why Anton LaVey started the Church of Satan, because he was sick to death of the hypocrisy coming from the Christians. So they do whatever they wanted through the week and then went and repent their sins on a Sunday. And he was,
There is a lot of hypocrisy. I mean, but you can look at the money on that itself, you know, and the Vatican itself. There's so many deep dives in terms of religion. Like I say, you could literally do a podcast series for a year on that. But you know, I've had it myself, so I became a Reiki master, if you like, and I was giving Reiki, and I was making a difference to people's lives. And through my mind's eye, I would see things, you know, I would see things which help people. And then I was told that it was the devil's work. You know, that's what I was told. But
yoga's the devil's work. And I do that every morning.
Yoga's the devil's work, you know. So astrology is the devil's work, you know. All of this is the devil's work. But it's only because it's not part of that path that you're meant to be on in that religion. So everything else is the devil's work. But you know, it's like an individual who is born in a desert island. Just because he's never read the Bible, does that mean he's going to hell?
I saw something along those lines. Yeah.
It's just not that. We're all God's creatures, if you like. We're all part of this creation, this incredible creation, as hard as it is.
And again, define hell, because if we look at Dante's Inferno with the different, this might be heaven compared to where
it might be,
or this could be the real hell realm. You know, it said that we are in hell in this realm. So define, you know, and again, it's just that fear programming. And again, we go back to, you want everybody in boxes, and they want everybody living in some kind of fear, because that's the only way that they can control.
We're so easily controlled. You know, if there was unity, then it's game over. It's game over. But unity is very difficult. So again, going back to the actual topic of tonight, over the past few years, even in the Truther community, people that lived, we allowed to live at the pub during that period of time, we fell out with. You know, it's both sides, but we don't talk anymore. We've gone our separate paths.
Yeah.
You know?
And why is that? Just out, you don't have to tell me if it's too personal.
No, I mean there was fallouts. It stopped resonating. So I think what happened was in 2020, 2021 especially, there was a common ground. We were all under attack, and we had that. When they stopped attacking us the way they did in those 2 years, you started to see each other's personalities a bit more. It was a bit more relaxed. And then it was a case of, well, I don't really like you as much as I did. And I think that's what happens. So when they talk about communities, and I do believe that a community is important. I really do. I think if we can come together with more of a chance, I do believe in that. But I think it's difficult. And we're going to have to remove our egos a little bit more. Because again, the ego is part of the challenge that we have, because the ego isn't us.
No.
That's not that. The ego is Ant Critchley, the part-time actor that's having the experience.
But also I learned something new about ego death as well. Ego death isn't completely getting rid of your ego. Ego death is just opening your mind and learning new things and moving on through this evolution, if you like. But just on I know you've been accused of being a shill. So have I. I mean, I was toying with the idea of joining the Freemasons, as you know, I told you. Well, I got ostracized for that. God knows what people are thinking about with the path that I'm on now, Jesus. I actually got asked if I was a Luciferian years ago, because a lot of my photographs on Instagram when I was in the arty phase, they're all one eye, you know, one eye with my horses, one eye with my cat. It was creation, do you know what I mean? And I got asked if I was a Luciferian, and I was like, I wish I was, because I'd love to know what they know. And that's why I'm on this path, because I want to know the deepest, darkest secrets. Whether I'll ever get there, time, you know, is it for me to know? I don't know, but why should they have all the freaking knowledge and the power? That's the way I'm looking at things. Yeah, I know you were ostracized and you were called a shill. And I mean, look at us, Anne. I mean, I've got like 350 followers on YouTube. You know, I'm that much of a threat, really.
It is a strange one. It is a strange one.
Because people are so paranoid. And
it's
again,
fear.
that's part of the destruction that has been set upon people, is to make everybody not trust each other and paranoid as hell.
You know what? As much as the Beatles are a controlled Tavistock kind of social, whatever you want to call it, they did say that all you need is love. They weren't wrong.
No, they weren't. And, you know, going back to the music, there's a lot of truth in that music. There's truth in the movies. They're constantly telling us. And it's for those with eyes to see that will see it.
Yeah.
You know?
But ain't it brilliant, though?
Do you know what? I've got to say, I'm thankful for 2020.
Yeah, I am. I think it's been a marvelous time. And not, you know, don't get me wrong, it's been a lot of horrible things that have happened, but I just think that in terms of consciousness and awareness of myself now more and more, I think I do think it you know, whatever's going on is happening because it's divine. It's not, you know, it might not be pleasant, but things need to change.
Well, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, the catalyst. You know, we need the catalyst in order for the soul to evolve. Otherwise, we'd just be stagnant. And that's why you need the negative polarity. I mean, polarity is one of the Hermetic principles. Everything is but a half-truth.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everything's but a half-truth. Or I think it's something like that. But you need the negative and the positive polarity in order for things to... And I'm learning this a lot with the Tree of Life, this book that I'm reading at the moment. You know, the left path, the right path. Without either of those, they're literally holding each other up.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
It's a fascinating journey. It's an amazing journey.
It is. We just need more people on it.
I was asked the other day. So when I red-pilled my colleague about Operation Paperclip, and I told her a few stories and. You know, without going too deep, kind of thing. And maybe I went a bit deep. I don't know. Anyway, because she went to me and said, "Can I ask you something? Do you enjoy life?" I said, "I love it."
So she said to you.
She said, "Do you enjoy life?" Because I was telling her, this world is not real. It's an it's an experience. But do you enjoy life? And I'm like, yeah, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I've hit some dark points in my life. Very, very dark points. But even though I've had dark thoughts in those points, have I ever wanted to leave this realm? No.
Well, that's another thing as well. We fight to stay here. We fight for survival. So there must be something good about it.
There's a lot of beauty here. There's a lot of beauty here. You know, we've spent the day today simple in the back garden. The sun, finally, we've had a bit of sunshine. You know,
good for you, we haven't.
Have you not? We've had a bit of sunshine. We've had a fire pit on. I've been playing with the dog. The dog's had the most amazing day, just chasing a ball around, and she's like loving it. And it's a bit simple day, but we've loved it. We don't need much more. The birds are flying past us. Blah blah blah. It's wonderful. We love it.
Have you found that? Me and Joe were talking about this, and I was speaking to Callie not long back. Voice noting, and I know since 2020 more so, I've become so much more intense and serious, and I'm starting to get a little bit of fun back and I think that's what I'm wanting. I want to inject I want somebody to come into my life to inject that little bit of fun back into it, you know, to bring out the child, because I do have this childish, playful side to me, but she's gone. She comes out when I'm playing with the cats, but life has become so serious. And I'm not going to lie as well, I'm ever so lonely. I've never felt loneliness before, but since my mum passed away, because of course she was my go-to, do you know what I mean? So I am feeling lonely, but again, that's a state of mind. I accept that, but I can't seem to have just a normal conversation with someone. I always have to throw in either conspiracy stuff or the deeper stuff. Like this was meant to be an easy chat about the differences. We've touched on some quite deep subjects. Have you found that you are just a lot more intense?
Yeah, I think my daughter, for example, would look at both me and Lou and say, "It's all we ever talk about." it's like, and they both kids take the piss out of us constantly. That's all we ever talk about. But we went on very much self-defense in 2020. Not only were we under attack, but they went for our kids. So of course we were very serious.
Yeah.
And all these subject matters that we talk about are serious and deep topics.
Yeah.
Now, I think with our programming, growing into adulthood, anyway, you do lose your inner child. It's taken out of you. It's almost like you're meant to leave that behind. You've got to grow up, So it's programming. But no, that inner child is you. That's that joyful side is that part of that spark that's there, that was naturally there from the beginning.
It's interesting because again, this Universal Mastery guy that I've been following, he's done a video on the inner child, and he was talking about when we act up. And I'll give you an example, like when I was chatting to this lad, my old programming came out in a dating situation. So I started to so you either get the inner child, the playful side of me, or you get the one that pushes the boundaries. And I pushed the boundaries, and what that did was pushed him further.
Yeah.
Oh, like he thought it was a nut job because I had to push the boundaries. And this universal master is called Jeremiah Schwartz, and he was saying, like, if you're not nurturing your inner child, it will come out and it will have a tantrum because it wants attention, because it needs attention. And I'm actually going to rewatch that video and do my own, my own take and just jig it up and give my own version of that video, because I think it's really important, because it's like you say, as soon as we go to school, the inner child's drugged out of us. If you speak out, go and sit in the corner. Don't speak. You can't go to the toilet. Do you know what I mean? So we get to a point, and even our parents, because they don't know any different.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're playing or if we're being children, then we're told off for expressing ourselves.
We're traumatized to become mature.
Yeah.
And to become the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
And we're not that. We're all uniquely beautiful beings, and we do need to find, it's about remembrance. So when I fell ill after we lost the pub, the story quickly is, a guy who came to the pub to a talk, actually all the way from Inverness. I didn't know him, but someone passed my number to him, and he phoned me out the blue, and the first thing he said to me was, "You need to remember who you are." And I went and spent some time with him, and we went through a walk in the woods, and we were, to the point where we're looking at the trees and finding shapes in the trees and shapes in the clouds, and that's what you did when you were a kid.
Yeah.
But it was part of my healing to try and bring out the inner child, if you like. It's crying out to come out.
Absolutely. And when we were children, we talked to our teddies or our dolls, and again, that's something that if you talk to yourself, you're crazy.
Yeah, this is
So
there's fear, though. There's fear in all that, though. Again, it's all trauma, and it's all fear, and it's all programming.
Yeah.
If we were naturally just being, we wouldn't be this personality that's created. It wouldn't be. It'd be your life would be so different.
Yeah.
The whole world would be so different.
Absolutely.
The whole world would be so different.
Yeah.
So is there entities that come in and influence to create this control, and for us to create a realm with so much destruction? Could be. could be. It's interesting. Because as a human being, if you were left to just be and to just grow with love, this world wouldn't be like this.
But would we? Would we grow or would we stagnate? Because if we have come here to evolve as souls, then we need these challenges in life.
Good, but that's a very good point. So therefore, the Sophia myth, if she created the demiurge for that purpose, good question. Yeah. Again, these are great topics to talk about, and it just makes you accept things a bit more.
And I think I read a book a few years ago, and it was called "Fuck It." And
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's basically, if you can't change it, accept it, and if you can change it, change it, and that's actually a very liberating thing to have in you. And when we're actually going through anxieties, sometimes I'm just going, oh, fuck it, I can't change it. It is what it is. Yeah. It is what it is. And do you know what? The universe does have our backs.
It does.
Because for each destruction that we go through, look at you. You started on this project, the Drake, Michigan, and you were worried about money, and then you land yourself a job. And okay, it's not what your sole purpose is meant to do, but it's an interim to get to where you are, where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I picked out the Tower card today, and that's about destruction, yada yada yada. And then the following card, I think, was the Star. And you had the Tower card, which was all about destruction. But then the Star card was about, I'd have to read my notes, but it's where you're supposed to be going with flow and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's that destruction and rebirth. And we're constantly going through destruction and rebirth every minute of every single day. Constantly. But a lot of those, they're such small nuances that we don't notice them. It's only when we have the devastating, and it's usually around money, sadly. That the devastating catastrophes happen because I've not got. Look, like you, I've had some really dark times where money has been really tight. I can give you two jobs that I manifested. I said to Chris, I either want a little job in a vegan cafe or a part-time job in a pub, and I got them both. And that was when I was really, really tight on money. So tight on money that I was due to have 2 of my horses put to sleep.
Oh.
Because I was that tight on money. I could not afford to keep them. And I said to Chris, I will have all 3 of my horses in a field. And the following week I found a field to put them all in.
So you looked after.
I do truly believe I'm looked after. I'll give you another quick story before we head off, because I'm sure we're on over 1.5 hours now. So I was doing a protection meditation, and I've had so many instances. I'm sure you've had so many instances. I truly know I do know I'm divinely protected. So we had a wind. It was windy, and this thing shakes in the wind. I think it was 50, 60 mile an hour winds, and I'm used to it now. I mean, the first storm that we had at 80 mile an hour winds, and this thing moved. I shit myself. I was like, what? And I went up to Simon's, my neighbours, and I went, my lodge is moving. The shed flew away. It terrified me. I didn't sleep all that night. But anyway, I was doing a protection meditation when we had the last lot of strong winds, and I got up to feed the cats, and I left my duvets strewn across the bed, and I got back into bed, and there's a little feather where I'd been laying.
Wow.
So I know. I've had too many instances.
Yeah. No, we are looked after. And it's trusting again. And
I think you got to believe it. And you know what? Even like my mum is an example. She passed away in 2020. She was only 65. But I accept it was her time for her soul. Her soul would not wanted to have lived through these times. Few years. Yeah, she was very lonely, very depressed. So I kind of accept, as much as it's painful for any of my family,
Yeah.
It's just it's divine intervention. It's their time, whether they're coming back. Sadly, I think my mum's coming back. Sadly.
Who knows? We just don't know, do we?
We don't. But I'm trying to work out who Neve is actually, because of course, do you know the story about Neve, my kitten?
You may have told me. You may have
found her synchronistically.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you did tell me.
Yeah, Joe had ran me that morning, said, "Do you want to go to Windlatter Forest?" And I was like, "Yeah, just like spontaneous trip out." Our walk took longer than it should have done. The cafe we wanted to go to was closed by the time we'd finished the walk. And I'm driving home. I'm in my camper van. Saw this little kitten's arse running into Forest, caught her. And I swear to God, she fills my world so much. She's she's such a character. And I can't tell you the way she looks at me. It's just like, and I'm like, who is she? Who is she? She was sent to me.
Well, there you go. In terms of you know, I know you're saying you want a partner, and I'm not saying the cat's going to replace a partner, by the way. But but what that cat is doing is giving you aspects that you require in your soul journey. So she's bringing out the inner child.
Yeah.
She's bringing out the love, the companionship, and she's filling your life full of joy.
Yeah.
A bloke might not do that kind of thing. They'll bring something else. But,
yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? But there's so many different types of what we have in our lives to bring out what's necessary. We're the same, you know, with our dogs, and we got a cat and we got a bird, and we have so much fun with the animals.
I didn't have a cat.
Yeah, we got a black cat. Yeah, Salem.
Yeah. Salem.
Yeah. She's the devil. She's very funny, actually. She's a right character, but yeah, she can be pretty evil when she wants to be, and pretty loving when she wants to be as well. So.
Oh, do you know, none of my cats have got the evil. Well, maybe Neve sometimes, I guess. She can. She's got such funny expressions. It's almost like, I can't describe it. Like, she has these expressions, like she gives me really evil looks sometimes, like her eyes go slitty and she's like looking at me. That's like, don't you dare touch me. Whatever. I don't know. I remember I had a cat called Jake, and Chris said once he looks almost human the way, he used to look at me like he was in love.
Oh.
I've never seen a cat look at someone like that before. Very human.
They're pure though, aren't they, Joe? That's the thing with animals. They're pure because they don't have that programming that we have. They don't have that stripped out.
No, but anyway, finally we got this chat.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, and it's been great chatting to you, Ant.
And you. Thanks for the invite.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. It's been great to have these. You know, being a little lonesome, I don't often have these conversations, so I'm in my own head a lot. But Fab.
Yeah, great. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. Right.